Oi! Yes! Just the tip. Tuesday night, the Contender Series is over. The Pub Sports Radio DraftKings DFS show is over. The Balls Deep Breakdown, done earlier today, also over. Time for the full card breakdown, you guys. It's time for the weekly show on Uncle Weezy's channel that everybody's waiting for. The sensual prelude to the Balls Deep Breakdown. Just the tip with me, your host, Uncle Weezy, my co-host, right 52% of the time, Mr. Smooth Jimmy Apollo. We've got some reads for you. We've got some statistics for you. We got just a good time talking about mixed martial arts on a Tuesday night. One of the great martial arts days of the week, let's face it, with the Dana White Contender Series for 10 straight weeks right now, with just the tip following it up, with my DraftKings show right before that with DFS by the numbers, Luke from Sparring with Reality Betting, and AJ MMA Betting. Come on, guys. How could it get any better than this? Well, I guess it could get better if we start talking to you guys, if we start talking fights, and if we start trying to figure out how we can have another week just like last week and bring some money home. So let's see what you guys do in the chat here. We got my guy Daz saying, won't mention Dana White Contender Series. Sorry about any spoilers last time. It's quite all right, man. I just have to do a lot of work on Tuesdays. It's a big content day for me. So, if I have to miss out on the fights live, that's all right, man, because we got to get all the work done for just the tip. And I've been working hard this week, you guys. I did Stat Diggers on Sunday night with my man DFS by the numbers. The link to that show is in the description. I did the Die Hard MMA podcast. I made my debut there on Monday night with my man Clint from Pub Sports Radio. The link to that show is also in the description. I also did my DFS show with Brady and Luke and AJ today, also on Pub Sports Radio. The link to that show also in the description. I'd also like to thank Sun Tzu and Brett Apley for having me on Creating Alpha. Huge honor. The first ever YouTube-based MMA DFS show I ever watched. And I got to chop it up with those guys on Friday of last week. So it was great to do that. Check those guys out whenever you get the chance. Let's see what else you guys are up to here. We got Hammerin' Hog in the room. Weezy, what's up, Hammerin' Hog? I'm going to have a 4-leg parlay for you after we're done with all these fights, because once we've analyzed all the fights, then we're going to have the best read on what 4 legs to give you on this parlay. And you were telling me earlier today you wanted it a little bit greasier, a little bit dirtier, a little bit grimier. I'm going to see if I can't get that done for you this week, my man. We got the Grateful Dude in the room. What is happening, brother? I'm looking forward to hanging out with all you guys as well. We got Dad saying I like Johnny Walker, but he sure gets hit a lot. Wait until you see the stats. The dude gets hit more than anybody in the UFC percentage-wise, man. The guy, like, you could throw a rock from a mile away and it'll hit Johnny Walker, dude. That guy can't dodge anything. We got my man Brady in the room, hopefully awake, hopefully alive after a weekend in Vegas, tearing it up at the fights. Good to see you, brother. Give me violence is what he is asking for, and I think we're going to see quite a bit of it on this card. I've even got one violence bet in, and I am contemplating a few others. And after I chop it up with you guys, we'll see what kind of conclusions we can come to. And we got Corey Henderson in the room saying, Weezy, the stats you brought last week made me a lot of money. Let's do it again, buddy. Dude, let's do it again. I'm bringing all the stats like I do every single week. Let's see if we can comb through them and find some winners. Mark Schillenberg, what's up, dude? Violence has been the play on these Vegas main events. Back in the small cage, UFC Vegas 38, or what is it, 68? What? I fuck it. I don't care. There's a lot of them. And we're gonna go through all the fights. And we got Daz Fire saying violence. We got Charlie saying oi, and we got Hammering Hog saying oi. Dude, it's good to see you guys. It's good to hang out with you guys. My guy Monk in the room. What's up, Monk? It's good to see you, brother. My brother in MMA stats right here, the Monk Matician, hanging out with us. We got royalty in the room. Good to see you, brother. We got Mark saying, I almost forgot to smash the like. Don't you guys forget. I appreciate that, Mark. It's always appreciated when you do that for me, man. You know, and all the subscribers that have come around recently, especially after creating Alpha and doing the Die Hard MMA podcast, and all the subscribers that have caught us on Stat Diggers. You know, I appreciate all you guys. I'm almost to 600 subscribers. I'm so close. And I have all of you to thank for that. I appreciate you guys watching my content. Like I said, if you guys didn't do that, it'd just be me talking to the wall here. So I appreciate all of you guys. We got Charlie saying, thanks, ready for that greasy parlay. Yes, we're going to get it after we get into all the fights here. We got Asphalt in the room. What's up, buddy? Good to see you. We got Gran Escarabajo in the room. We got UFC betting experience. Uncle Weezy. Always appreciate the hard work and the stats. Yes, and that's the other thing, you guys. All the stats that you're going to see in this video today, that is also linked in the description. Feel free to click that link and follow along with all the fights. I've got all 13 tabs for the side-by-side matchups of all 13 fights, and then I got the advanced stats on there as well. And we got Hammering Hog saying, yo, I need a 4-legger for the virgins and a 4-legger for the D-gens. Maybe we could come up with a couple of them, man. Walker equals worst Chindex in the UFC. Wow. Well, yeah, and Walker gets hit a ton, too. So it's going to be a bad combination for him versus Thiago Santos here. We're going to have to see where this fight takes place, see if it actually gets to the ground, because Santos doesn't wrestle that much, but he does have a pretty good ground game, and we've seen Johnny Walker get exposed there. So, you know, we could potentially see that fight getting to the ground, but if it stays standing, dude, somebody's going to get slept for sure. Excuse me. All right, and Asphalt saying the robe is out here. Comes the greasy props. Yes, that's right. We got Charlie in the room saying that we got a few locks this week. Never say the L word, but there are some good spots for sure. One of them anyway, says Monk. 6 of 6 last week for me. Yeah, I had a great week last week. That's for sure, man. And Mark, you know, what's up, Mark? Good to see you. And then we got, David Milk's in the room. Johnny Walker, not the smartest tool in the shed. Yeah, that is true, man. He's the tallest tool in the shed. He's the longest tool in the shed, and he hits hard. But his fight IQ might just leave a little something to be desired. And we know we don't like betting on those fighters that have bad fight IQ. And there's one of them on this card, and his name is Kevin Holland. We got Kirby Eichholz in the room saying people sleeping on Holland this week. Daukaus not that good yet. Yeah, and I kind of agree with you. You know, I'm picking Holland actually. I like him to win this fight. I don't think Kyle is that much better on the ground than Holland is, and Kyle's not the best wrestler either. He's not known for being a super efficient, high amplitude wrestler. So if this fight stays standing, I think Holland's going to have a huge advantage. And we got BG in the room. What up? What up? Good to see you, man. And we got Charlie saying that Carlston Harris analysis really helped me out. Weezy, cheers. I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I had a bet on him too. Carlston Harris has cashed 2 straight tickets for me. I am a big fan of that dude. Kirby Eichel saying training with Johnny Hendricks. Yes. Is that you're referring to Kevin Holland, I think? Yeah, I think he might be training with Hendricks. Unless I'm thinking of somebody else, but I believe Johnny Walker is training. So let me get my screen share with you and bring my co-host into the picture here. My friend, right, 52% of the time, Smooth Jimmy Apollo. Look at that lock of the week. Look at that cigar. Look at that smile. What a professional. Well, that professional and then me, the amateur. We're ready to take you through the stats of 13 fights. So I hope you guys are all ready. So let's get into it. The very first fight is going to be Shanna Young versus Stephanie Egger. So Stephanie Egger, 3 years older, and Stephanie Egger is going to have a 3-inch reach advantage here. Young's got 10 fights. Egger's got 7. And Young's got 2 UFC fights. Stephanie Egger has 1. One of Young's fights is a Contender Series fight. She's 0-2 in the UFC. Stephanie Egger 0-1 in the UFC. Whoever wins this fight's getting their first UFC win. Stephanie Egger, in her 5 career wins, 4 of them are by finish. 2 submissions, 2 knockouts. While for Shanna Young, she's got a 57% finish rate, 43% by sub, 14% by knockout. In their 5 combined losses, only one of them have finished inside the distance, and that was a submission that Shanna Young gave up to Sarah Alpar on the Contender Series. So Stephanie Egger made her debut against Tracy Cortez. She was controlled for 66.44% of the fight, so she didn't accrue many statistics. She's landing 0.67 significant strikes a minute and absorbing 1.33, while Shanna Young is landing 3.05 significant strikes a minute and absorbing 5.28. And that's in her 2 fights against Sarah Alpar and then Macy Chiasson. So Young is 0 for 2 on her takedown attempts in the UFC, while Stephanie Egger was 1 for 6 in her fight against Tracy Cortez. Stephanie Egger was taken down 3 times out of 5 attempts by Tracy Cortez. So Stephanie only showing 40% takedown defense, and she was controlled for 2/3 of that fight. While Shanna Young, not good takedown defense either, 5 of 11. So 54.55% takedown defense. She's getting taken down 3.27 times for 15 minutes and being out-controlled 1.6% to 37.31%. So which one of these girls is going to be able to get the fight to the feet? Which one of these ladies is going to initiate the grappling first? I think whichever one gets that done is going to have a chance here. Shanna Young does have a wrestling background, you guys, and if you look at her pre-UFC tape, you'll see some really good wrestling chops against much lower level competition, mind you. And then Stephanie Egger is an Olympic level judoka. She's got fantastic judo, so she's going to have good body lock takedowns, trips, sweeps, reaps, and throws. You don't want to be in the clinch with Egger. She's going to be stronger than Shanna Young there. She's going to be longer, and she's going to be more dangerous in that position. I'm going to say that whichever fighter works the distance management game better is probably going to have a slightly easier time winning this fight. I am not going to bet this fight. I'm not betting the time props on this fight. This kind of feels like a 1-800 gambler fight, because while Stephanie Egger has 7 fights and Young has 10, neither one of these ladies really has a signature win yet. Shanna Young being 7-3, if Stephanie Egger were to beat her, that would by far be the best record on her resume. So let's just take a quick look at who these ladies have fought before we move on to the next fight. So Stephanie Egger has wins over Sinja Kiefer, who's 4-4, Reina Miura, who's 11-2 in Ryzen, and I saw the highlights of that fight. The 11-2 girl did not look impressive. Eva Siskinen, 5-4, Mara Romero Barella, 5-2, and Judith Ruiz, 1-0. So definitely the signature win for Egger is Barella. If we go to Shanna Young and we find any signature wins there for her, we're going to see Maijo Suotama, 8-4, who she also beat in an exhibition bout. She's lost to Miranda Maverick in an exhibition bout. She got subbed by Sarah Alpar. She lost to Lisa Versosa by split decision. The wins are over 0-0 Anastasia Bruce, 1-1 Jessica Borga, 2-0 Pam Sorensen, 2-0 Christina Joby, 1-1 Moriel Charneski, and 0-1 Caitlin Dykes. So I would say that the better level of competition I'm going to have to give to Egger, having fought Tracy Cortez. The losses to Chiasson, to Maverick, to Alpar, they're all impressive fighters, but there's no impressive wins on there for me. I don't know who Maiju Suotama is, so I can't say that that's an impressive win. But at least Egger has had some success on the national grappling scene, and in her previous prior to the UFC experience, that win over Mara Romero Barella, who's a good grappler in her own right, is probably more impressive than anything on Shanna Young's resume. I don't think Young's wrestling is going to be any better than Egger's grappling and judo. So I think I'm going to just lean Stephanie Egger here. But you guys, there's no bet on this fight for me. I'm going to stay away from it. I'm even staying away from the time props because I think that Egger could potentially get a submission here because Sarah Alpar did submit Shanna Young as well. So I'm going to pick Stephanie Egger to win the first fight. Second fight. This is a fight I also did a good amount of tape research on because I haven't seen Johnny Eduardo in so long that I had to kind of take a look at him. And we haven't seen Alejandro Perez in a couple years as well. So before we look at these stats in the matchup template, let's go to the advanced stats and let's look at the last time these guys fought because it's been a minute for both of them. So let's see. We've got, oh boy, I think they might be all the way. Oh no, there. So Johnny, the last fight for Turbo Perez was August 6th or July 6th, 2019. So it's been over 2 years since Turbo Perez has fought. He lost via vicious knockout to Song Yadong in the first round. And then we got Johnny Eduardo, the 43-year-old Johnny Eduardo, by the way, who hasn't fought since his loss to Nathaniel Wood. That was in 2018, June 1st. So it's been 3 years and 3 months since Johnny Eduardo has fought. And in that fight against Nathaniel Wood, he got finished a little bit into the second round, but it kind of looked like after the first round, Johnny decided that he didn't feel like fighting anymore. And he shot one very sloppy takedown. Wood stopped it, and then he basically threw his chin up and put himself in a Darce choke and was shown the door quickly. Johnny Eduardo is 43 years old, you guys. The wins are over Manny Gamburian, Eddie Wineland, and Jeff Curran. So he doesn't have a win over a guy that was born before 1984. And that's Wineland, and that would be a 37-year-old man right now. So this is a guy who's, I believe, Jose Aldo's striking coach over at Nova União. The guy's got a super long and decorated career in Muay Thai and mixed martial arts. Let's get back to the matchup stats here so I can tell you about all that. Eduardo, 43 years old, though, and Perez, 32. So Perez is going to be 11 years younger. Johnny Eduardo, 1 inch taller, and has got a 4-inch reach advantage. So he's going to be the slightly bigger, longer dude here. Johnny Eduardo, 40 professional fights, but Alejandro Perez has 30 professional fights. So I'm going to give the experience advantage here actually to Perez because he's got less tread on the tires, and he's fought a much higher percentage of his career at the UFC level, about 35%, while for Eduardo, it's a little under 20% at 17.5%. So these guys have not been fighting long fights. We see Johnny Eduardo average fight time 6 minutes, Alejandro Perez 7.73 minutes. We see that Perez has the UFC experience advantage, having 11 fights to Johnny Eduardo's 7, and about 60 more minutes in the UFC cage. If we look at the finish rates for these guys, we see that Alejandro Perez has a respectable 67% finish rate. He's finished 14 of his 21 career wins, while Johnny Eduardo has got a 75% finish rate, finishing 21 of his 28 wins. But even more interesting is the fact that Johnny Eduardo has been shown the door in 83% of his 12 losses. So that would be 10 of his 12 losses have come inside the distance. And for Alejandro Perez, it's 5 of 8, 2 by knockout and 3 by submission. So I think this is a great violent spot. I've actually already bet it, and it's not so much just the finish rates of both fighters and the rates that they're getting finished. It's what I've seen on tape for Johnny Eduardo. I think he's showing up for a paycheck, you guys. I mean, you can't imagine that a 43-year-old man in the UFC who hasn't fought in 3 years is going to suddenly have this spectacular renaissance. He's on his way out the door. Alejandro Perez has 30 fights at the age of 32. So potentially we could still see Alejandro Perez come back and make a little bit of a run here. He could get 5 or 6 more UFC fights, especially if he knocks out Eduardo here or subs him. So Alejandro Perez has finished 3 of his 7 UFC wins inside the distance, and Johnny Eduardo has finished 2 of his 3 UFC wins inside the distance. And when we talk about losses in the UFC, Johnny Eduardo been finished in 3 of 4, and Alejandro Perez has been finished in all 3. So if we look at the UFC loss rate for these guys, 6 out of 7 of those losses have come inside the distance. Now, I got this line, fight doesn't go to decision. I put 1 unit on it, and I got it at plus 100. I believe it was either Sunday night or Monday. So this is definitely going to move. I don't think Johnny Eduardo is going to go past the 1.5 round mark, to be honest with you. I made a joke that I think he's kind of like on the Bob Sapp plan towards the end of Bob Sapp's career. He used to tell the promoters, I'll give you 2 good minutes where I'll go all out. If I don't beat this guy in 2 minutes, I'm just going to let him finish me. And that's what Eduardo's fights are looking like. Look at how he got finished by Nate Wood, and then look at how he got finished by Matt Lopez. Those were not good looks, you guys. The Matt Lopez one in particular, everybody's favorite referee, Mario Yamasaki, he was getting ground and pounded, and Mario just let it go on way too long. And I know what you guys are saying. Come on, Uncle Weezy. We all know that Mario Yamasaki would never let an unnecessary beating go on for too long. But trust me, it did happen just once, and it was the Johnny Eduardo Matthew Lopez fight. Lopez beat the shit out of Eduardo. So I was surprised to even see him come back after that. But yeah, when it didn't go his way right away against Nate Wood, he found the door, and he found it quickly. You guys, the pick is going to be Alejandro Perez inside the distance. If we look at the strength of schedule numbers here, Johnny Eduardo's got a slight edge. He's fighting winning competition while Perez is fighting slightly losing competition. But even if we look at the wins for Perez, he's beating a guy with a 4.3 and 4.5 record, but Johnny Eduardo's got a 3-4 record, and he's a 43-year-old man. So I think this is a really safe spot for Alejandro Perez. I think Johnny Eduardo's only win condition here is to get Perez out of there in the first round with a heavy shot. And Eduardo's got the capability to do that. He's very powerful. He's a great Muay Thai striker, and he thrives hitting people hard. So, it could happen, but I think it's really his only win condition, and I don't see him taking place in a war here. If it doesn't go his way right away, I see this ending quickly with Perez as the victor. And like I said, I already have a bet on the fight doesn't go to decision at plus 100 for 1 unit, and I'm thinking of also adding Alejandro Perez inside the distance for a half unit. Let's move on here. We got a really intriguing fight here between Silva de Andrade and Gaetano Pirello. You guys might remember Pirello from his debut when he got his ass shaved by Ricky Simon. He took the fight on short notice against a great grappler and a great wrestler. And Gaetano Pirello is a Muay Thai world champion with no ground game. So really, it was probably just a terrible decision for Pirello to take that fight. He had no chance in that fight. And it took place in a way that, if you look at Gaetano Pirello landed 6 strikes in 3 rounds. He was taken down 7 times and controlled for 77.59% of the fight and then submitted in the 3rd round. So a really rough debut for one Gaetano Pirello. While Douglas Silva de Andrade is a veteran here that has 31 professional fights, 172 minutes of cage time, 8 UFC fights, a 4-4 UFC record, a 77% finish rate. And Gaetano Pirello in his own right has a 93% finish rate, finishing 14 of his 15 pro wins. So 77% and 93%. These guys are definitely people who don't like to be in the cage that long. So we're talking 34 out of 41 of these guys' wins have finished inside the distance. Douglas Silva de Andrade is incredibly tough, though. He took a horrible beating from Laron Murphy up at 145, but toughed it out all the way to the end. So Silva de Andrade is landing 3.77 significant strikes a minute and absorbing 4.26. And Pirello, 0.67 a minute and he's absorbing 1.89. One of the things that we want to look at here is how willing of a wrestler is Douglas Silva de Andrade, because Pirello spent almost that whole fight on his back. He got up a few times, and he showed a willingness to try to get up. However, he kept getting put right back down there. And in order for Pirello to be successful, at least 2/3 of this fight is going to have to take place in striking range, not on the cage, not with somebody's back up against the mat. Otherwise, Pirello is not going to have a chance to win this fight. But if we look at Douglas Silva de Andrade's wrestling numbers, he's only 5 of 10 on takedowns. Now, 50% for takedown percentage is fantastic, but that's 8 fights and 10 takedown attempts. So he's only attempting 1.25 takedowns per fight. So he's not the kind of guy that's going to go out there and chain wrestle. And then if you look at how bricked up this dude is, you can tell that he doesn't have the kind of body that's going to run a wrestling heavy game plan for 15 minutes. My God, my throat's already given out, you guys. This is like the 5th hour of content I've done today, but we have to prattle on. We have to be strong here because we got 13 fights to go through. Let me just get a good cough out here after I mute this, and then we're going to get on to it. Oh, God. All right, let's go. So Douglas Silva de Andrade has only accumulated 3.75% control time in his UFC career. That's over an 8-fight sample size. So that leads me to believe that this fight is lined entirely too wide, because Douglas Silva de Andrade is a good striker, shown decent power for a bantamweight, landing 2 knockdowns and 404 significant strikes landed. He's got good striking defense at 58.62%, striking accuracy at 38.15%, not great. But he's got some power. But Gaetano Pirello, like we said, he's knocked out. Let's see, 75%. So 11 of his 15 opponents have been knocked out. That he's beaten. So he's a knockout artist. This guy hits extremely hard. And like I said, he's a Muay Thai world champion. So the fact that Douglas Silva de Andrade has only gotten 3.75% control time in his UFC career leads me to believe that Pirello is going to have an easy time keeping this fight on the feet. And if he has an easy time keeping this fight on the feet, it looks like it should be lined closer to a 60-40 Silva de Andrade, based on having fought the much better competition and based on a slight experience advantage. And based on the fact that he can at least get takedowns and grapple a little bit, but it's really not his game. Douglas Silva de Andrade on the aggregate is spending just a little over 85% of all of his fights at striking range, which is exactly where Pirello is going to want it. So I am not laying the juice here on Andrade. I think this line is entirely too wide, you guys. He's sitting around minus 240 right now, which is about a 72% implied probability. I think it's like I said, maybe it should be lined about 58 to 63%, simply because I think that their skills are comparable on the feet. Pirello might even be a little bit better, but if you look at Gaetano Pirello's competition that he's faced prior to this fight, there were no signature wins. While Douglas Silva de Andrade, well, here, let's look at it. I'll show you guys the fight histories for both of these guys. So Pirello, the signature win, let's see if we can find it here. Win over Enzo Maria Aiezi, 7-5. Percy Herrera, 6-4. Acevedo, 12-12-2. Manolo Ciana, 7-1. That's a good one. He won, and that's his only decision win. So I find that interesting, the fact that he finally fought somebody with a really good record in 7-1, and he wasn't able to finish them. Perez, 5-9. Jikiri, 0-2. Josiro Boye, 8-3. Farid, 1-0. 3-0. 7-7. 6-2. 0-3. And then a bunch of stuff that we don't know is from back in 2012. But then if we look at a guy like Douglas Andrade here, and we see names like Peter Yan, We see former champion Renan Barão. We see 100, and he's fought Barão at 145. He fought Murphy at 145. He fought Tukugov at 145. And then at 135, he's beaten Cody Gibson, Henry Briones, and that signature win is definitely Marlon Vera, in my opinion. Marlon Vera is super tough. And then Rob Font, he lost to via guillotine choke in the second round. So he's, he should be the favorite. I just don't think he should be as big of a favorite as he is. So I'm going to pick Douglas Silva de Andrade to win this fight. But I'm staying away from him in DraftKings, and I think it's entirely too much juice to lay on against a striker as powerful and as tricky and as credentialed as Pirello here. I think Pirello's going to get the fight that he wants, and I think this is going to be a lot more competitive than people think. All right, so let's move on to the next one, you guys, and that is going to be Smitty against Mullarkey. So we got Devonte Smith, 28 years old, Jamie Mullarkey, 27. Mullarkey's going to be taller. He and Smitty got a 2-inch reach advantage. Both these guys were orthodox fighters. We see Mullarkey with 4 more fights, about twice as much cage time as Devonte Smith. And we see that Mullarkey's had about 2 more years as a pro. But Devonte Smith has been fighting a larger percentage of his career at the UFC level, almost 40%. And we've got Mullarkey 3 out of 17 fights, so less than 20% for him at the UFC level. 4-1 in the UFC is Devonte Smith. 1-2 is Jamie Mullarkey. Mullarkey with a good finish rate of 92%. So he's finished 12 of his 13 wins. I'm thinking, let's see, it will be 6.5, 3.25. So yeah, 3 wins by submission and 9 wins by knockout for Mullarkey. While Devonte Smith has a 100% finish rate here, 91% by knockout, 9% by sub. And Devonte Smith has been finished in both of his pro losses, both by knockout, while Mullarkey has been finished in 2 of his 4 pro losses. Both of those finishes came by knockout. So gotta love a knockout prop here, you guys. Neither one of these guys is great grapplers. Devonte Smith, known for his striking. He's got crazy power. And Jamie Mullarkey showing some good power numbers in the limited amount of strikes that he's landed in the UFC. And, we're going to have to take a long look at the grappling numbers here, you guys, because that's going to be the key here. Will Mullarkey be able to make this a greasy fight? And will Devonte Smith be able to keep this at range? So the reason Devonte Smith's going to want to keep this at range is because this guy's got crazy boxing, crazy power, crazy hand speed. He is landing 5.64 significant strikes a minute and only absorbing 2.65. 55% striking accuracy, almost 60% striking defense. He's averaging 2.21 knockdowns per 15 minutes and landing a knockdown on 2.61% of the significant strikes that he lands. He's also chinny, though, as he's only absorbed 54 significant strikes, but he's been knocked down on one of them and knocked out for that matter. So we're talking 0.74 knockdowns allowed per 15 minutes. While Mullarkey's shown a little bit of power in his own right, but if we look at the striking accuracy numbers side by side, we're going to see Devonte at 55% accuracy and Mullarkey at 34%. While if we look at the striking defense numbers next to each other, 59.7% for Devonte Smith, 43.25% for Mullarkey. And then we're also going to see that Mullarkey is landing 2.02 significant strikes a minute and absorbing more than twice that at 4.65. Guys, the longer this fight stays standing, the bigger trouble Jamie Mullarkey is going to be in. If this fight stays standing, Mullarkey's going to get knocked out most likely. But if we look at the grappling statistics, we're going to see that Jamie Mullarkey is a very, very willing wrestler. 26 takedown attempts in 3 UFC fights. And the reason for that is because his striking isn't that good. You're better wrestle when you're only landing 2.02 and absorbing 4.65 significant strikes a minute. You better wrestle when your striking accuracy is 34% and your striking defense is only 43%. And you better fucking wrestle when you are facing off against Devonte Smith, who is knocking people down on 2.61% of the significant strikes that he lands. So Mullarkey has only gotten 8 of the 26 takedowns he's attempted. He is getting those takedowns at a 30.77% rate. He is averaging 3.9 takedowns per 15 minutes. And he's getting 33.75% control time and allowing 13% control time. And he's also been taken down 2 times out of 6 tries. Devonte Smith thus far in the UFC has 100% takedown defense, but it's in a very small sample size, so we can't put too much into that. Only 3 takedowns attempted against him, but he has stuffed all 3. But my guy Luke, sparring with Reality Betting, was talking on the DraftKings show that we did earlier today on Pub Sports Radio, and he was talking about the John Gunther fight, which was a fight that Devonte Smith lost pre-UFC, where Gunther out-wrestled him and eventually eventually knocked him out because he's never been submitted. But he definitely took advantage of Devonte Smith's poor takedown defense, but that fight was quite a while ago. Let's take a look here at when that particular fight happened, because it's important to know that even though Devonte Smith has 100% takedown defense in the UFC, that he has had that part of his game exploited in the past, although albeit by a UFC veteran, not one that people are really known for in John Gunther. So yes, he did lose to Gunther via punches, 229 in round 3. But, we see a violent man here in Devonte Smith. Knockout, 429 round 1. Knockout, 232 round 2. Knockout, 301 round 1. Knockout, 50 seconds round 3. Triangle choke, 235 round 1. Ref stoppage from strikes, 103 round 4. Punch, 130 round 1. Elbows, 252 round 1. Punches, 46 seconds round 1. Punches, 353 round 1. Lost by a left hook, 415 round 1 to his former training partner, Kama Worthy, and then a doctor's stoppage, 338 in round 2 from an eye injury over Justin James. So Devonte Smith, I think, is going to keep this fight standing for long enough to find Mullarkey's chin and put him to sleep. I think Devonte Smith's got fantastic striking. I know that Mullarkey is going to try to make this fight as dirty as he possibly can. And like I said, he would be stupid not to. But the problem is, you guys, if we look at this fight here, the loss via unanimous decision to Fares Ziam. Fares Ziam is a lot like Devonte Smith. He's an excellent striker. But the problem here was that Mullarkey wasn't able to find any success with the wrestling, or at least not enough to win the fight. So he only landed 20 significant strikes in 15 minutes. And that was 20 of 72, 29 total strikes. He got 5 of 11 takedowns, but on those 11 takedown attempts, he managed 416 seconds of control time. But the problem is, Fares Ziam landed 47 significant strikes. He got a takedown of his own. He reversed him twice, and he got up a couple of times. So Mullarkey tried to stall Fares Ziam with his grappling game. Fares Ziam, who's not as powerful, not as athletic, and probably doesn't even have as good a takedown defense as Devonte Smith. So I think that if he can't beat Fares Ziam, I think it's going to be a really bad matchup here for him against Devonte Smith. And Devonte Smith is a knockout artist. And even though Jamie Mullarkey is ridiculously tough, his fight against Brad Riddell was a ridiculous war. I am predicting that Devonte Smith is going to knock this man out, and he's going to win inside the distance. But the pick is definitely Devonte Smith. Okay, so now we're going to move on to Antonina Shevchenko against Casey O'Neill. Casey O'Neill, a hot prospect, went through her last 2 opponents like a hot knife through butter, beating Laura Procopio and Shanna Dobson. And Antonina Shevchenko thus far in the UFC is 4-3. She's been alternating wins or I don't know about alternating wins and losses, but the last 5 she has been doing that. And then I think the two before that were both wins, the Contender Series win and whoever she beat in the first fight. So we see that Antonina Shevchenko, first of all, big red flag here, 36 years old compared to the very young 23-year-old Casey O'Neill. Antonina Shevchenko is 2 inches taller, but it looks like Casey O'Neill is going to have a 2-inch reach advantage. Shevchenko southpaw. O'Neill is an orthodox fighter. Shevchenko Tiger Muay Thai. You've seen Fasayev in her corner and obviously her sister in her corner, while Casey O'Neill is now training out of Extreme Couture, and she's from Australia, and Antonina originally from Kyrgyzstan. 12 professional fights for Shevchenko, 7 for O'Neill, but we have to note that Shevchenko had a professional Muay Thai career prior to being a mixed martial artist. 7-0 for O'Neill, 9-3 for Shevchenko. We see that Shevchenko's career length, 19 years, 5 months. She's been fighting ever since she was 18. And for Casey O'Neill, she's got a career length under 3 years at this point. So she's brand new to the game, but she is undefeated, and she has got a lot of hype under her. If we look at the UFC experience numbers side by side, we got 5 more fights for Shevchenko, about 58 more minutes in the cage, and the average fight time right around the same, right around 11 minutes for both of them. Shevchenko, 44% career finish rate, but she's got a 75% finish rate in the UFC, while Casey O'Neill has won both of her UFC fights via stoppage, but in her career, in her 7 wins, 2 of them are by sub, 2 of them are by knockout. And Antonina has been subbed in one of her 3 pro losses. That was to Andrea Lee in her last fight, where she spent about 4.5 minutes in a triangle before finally tapping. And then, if we look at the striking stats here, we've got a decent sample size for Antonina, and she's landing 3.87 and absorbing 2.77 for a significant strike differential of 1.1. We've got a 56% striking accuracy for Shevchenko, a 61% striking accuracy for Casey O'Neill. And we see that Shevchenko, 51% striking defense is decent, but Casey O'Neill's 38.71% striking defense is terrible. She is blocking punches with her face. The longer that this fight stays standing, the more success that Antonina Shevchenko is going to have. But Casey O'Neill's strong points is that she pushes a pace. She throws a lot of volume. She is tough. She can definitely block punches with her face, but she's been walking through them thus far, and she has been landed on a couple of times very hard, but didn't show any worse for wear. But, that's never a good strategy for longevity in this sport. You want to have good defense. You don't want to walk into punches. You want to take as little damage as possible, and that's something Casey O'Neill is going to have to work on. And she better work on it quick, because Antonina Shevchenko hits very hard and has got a very long Muay Thai career. She's much better in the striking than Casey O'Neill is at this point in her MMA career. Shevchenko, if we look at the defensive numbers are huge here. Casey O'Neill is really outdoing her opponents, landing 5.56 and absorbing 2.64. And she's out voluming her opponents 9.13 to 4.31. So, but Casey O'Neill is also controlling her opponents 61% of the time, being controlled 14% of the time, while Antonina Shevchenko is being out-controlled by her opponents 24% to 33%. So Shevchenko's weaknesses that we've seen, especially in the Modafferi, the Chukagian, and the Lee fights, is a grappling weakness. And then she'll come back against a lower-level grappler like Lipsky or Pudilova and show some improvements. But then as soon as she takes a step up in the grappling game, somebody with some wrestling, somebody with some jiu-jitsu, she gets blanketed, and she doesn't really have an answer for it. So Casey O'Neill thus far is 5 of 8 on her takedown attempts, 62.5%, averaging 3.47 takedowns per 15 minutes. And then once she gets you down, she's active trying to finish the fight, attempting 2.08 submission attempts per 15 minutes. And she's got 61% control time for her. So Casey O'Neill has exactly the type of game plan that Shevchenko has problems with. The thing is that she's executed that game plan from what I've seen against fighters like Christina Steliou, Shanna Dobson, and then Laura Procopio really just gassed out after the first round after winning the first round against Casey. So this is kind of a step up, but it's not in the sense that Shevchenko is just, we have to assume that she's trying to work on that takedown defense. But look at it here. The numbers are right here for you guys. Casey O'Neill getting takedowns at 62.5% and averaging 3.47 per 15 minutes. Antonina Shevchenko is only stopping takedowns at a 50% rate, and she's getting taken down 2.46 times per 15 minutes and being controlled 33% of the time. Until I see Antonina Shevchenko actively stop somebody with a grappling heavy game plan, I'm going to have to assume that she cannot do it. So I am going to be picking Casey O'Neill to win this fight. Even if we look at the strength of schedule, there's nothing there that's telling us that Shevchenko has any better wins really than O'Neill does at this point in her career. The wins over Lipsky and Pudilova are okay, but they both have losing records in the UFC. You know, Procopio is just as good of a win as Ariane Lipsky or anybody before that for Shevchenko. So I'm going to pick Casey O'Neill here. I'm going to keep that hype train rolling. I think she gets it done. I think she gets this one done by decision, you guys. Shevchenko's pretty tough, and she showed the ability to be able to kind of hang in a submission for a long period of time. I think she's improving the grappling. We're just going to have to see if that get-up game has gotten any better, because if it isn't, Casey O'Neill is going to just accrue a ton of control time and probably easily win this fight by decision. Next fight, Karol Rosa against the 38-year-old Bethe Correia. Because we're already 46 minutes in here, so let's keep it short and sweet here. Let's pray that this is Bethe Correia's last fight. This is the last time that we have to see her in the UFC. Karol Rosa, 12 years younger, 3-inch reach advantage. And even though she's 12 years younger, she has the same amount of pro fights. She's got excellent striking. She throws a ton of volume, and she's shown 90% takedown defense and 60% takedown accuracy in her own right. Karol Rosa is a minus 420 to minus 385 favorite, as high as minus 475 on Bet Online. And that's for a reason. It's because we haven't seen much lately out of Correia. She's 38 years old. She's already retiring. There's no future in MMA for her. So I got to pick Karol Rosa here. I think she gets it done by decision. And let's move on to the next fight. That's how we get it done quickly, you guys. I've got two of these things open here, right? So I'll just close this one. And like I said, you guys, we got the link to this spreadsheet with all the tabs on it in the description. If you want to follow along while we're going through this, please do. Download that, and you can look at all the numbers. You could probably see them a lot better on your own screen than you can mine. Joe Solecki versus Jared Gordon. Earlier today, I did a balls deep breakdown of this fight on my channel. So I'm going to keep this one as short and sweet as I can, because we went into this fight for almost an hour, although most of it was me interacting with the chat. So Joe Solecki, 5 years younger and going to have a 2-inch reach advantage here. So I've definitely got Joe Solecki with the tail of the tape advantage. Jared Gordon has got the experience advantage, having fought 21 pro fights in comparison to 13 for Solecki, and about 150 more minutes of cage time, and about 6 more years as a pro mixed martial artist for Jared Gordon. Jared Gordon's also fought about 40% of his pro career at the UFC level, while for Solecki, it's about 30%. So Gordon fighting a slightly higher percentage of his career at a better level here. Twice as many UFC fights for Jared Gordon here, having 8 in comparison to Solecki's 4. Gordon is 5-3, Solecki's 4-0, and about 50 more minutes of cage time for Jared Gordon. Jared Gordon moving back up to 155 pounds here. He's been bouncing back and forth between 145 and 155. He's definitely had more success at 135, I believe, but he's lost and won fights at both weight classes. I think his best win at 155 was against Dan Moret, but he's lost to Oliveira there, Silva there, and well, we'll figure that out later. We've got a 73% finish rate for Joe Solecki, and we got a 47% finish rate for Jared Gordon. Solecki's been finished in one of his two pro losses. That was by knockout to Nicholas Mata pre-UFC. And Jared Gordon has been finished in all four of his pro losses by knockout. So Jared Gordon has shown some chin issues in the past here. I don't know if he's entirely past them, but he does fight a style that protects his chin pretty well. He spends 48% of his fights in control time positions and 5% being controlled. So he's really only at striking range about 46% of the time. And in my opinion, that's probably by design because he does have to protect that chin. He is prone to being knocked out, and we've seen it happen 3 times in the UFC. Joe Solecki really has shown a really good record thus far at 11-2. In the UFC, we've seen him be dominant. 2.68 significant strikes landed, only 0.85 absorbed. That's over a 4-fight sample size. This guy is averaging less than 1 significant strike absorbed per minute. Excellent defensively, and that's a function of his control time. He has gotten 65% control time and only yielded 5% control time. And Gordon's doing the same thing, getting 48% control time and only yielding 5% control time. Jared Gordon's takedown defense, not great at 55.56%. We haven't seen anybody try to take Solecki down yet. And that's probably because he is a black belt and he's an excellent grappler. If we look at the strength of schedule numbers, we're going to see way better numbers for Solecki in his 4 fights, actually, than Jared Gordon. Jared Gordon, a 1.38 ratio, Solecki 1.42, so that's almost identical. But the Solecki's fights have been against competition that's twice as experienced as Jared Gordon. 14.5 total fights for Solecki, 7.13 for Gordon. And then if you look at the wins for Solecki, he's got a 1.42 ratio in his wins, while for Gordon, he's only beating guys with losing records and inexperienced fighters at that, with an average record of 1 win and 1.8 losses, while the guys that Solecki's beating, 8.5 wins and 6 losses. And Gordon losing the top-notch competition with an average record of 9.33 and 5 and a 1.87 ratio. So I think this fight's going to be close on the feet. Jared Gordon, great wrestling, great top game. He's a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's a good scrambler. And when he gets top position, he favors position over submission and will work ground and pound there and will lay and prey on top of you and accrue control time. And Joe Solecki's shown the ability to do the exact same thing, only I think that Solecki is a lot more dangerous to finish with a submission than Jared Gordon is. Solecki does go for subs. He's finished 2 of his 4 UFC wins by submission, while Jared Gordon has only finished 1 of his 5 UFC wins inside the distance, and it was against a piss-poor grappler in Michelle Canonis that he just took down and ground and pounded out quite easily. So, Jared Gordon, he's dangerous in the sense that he can take you down and hold you down and not do much there, but he's not going to finish you down there. While Solecki has finished Austin Hubbard, and he finished James Wallace as well in the Contender Series. He got Wallace with a guillotine choke, and he got Hubbard with a rear naked choke after backpacking him. And, and Austin Hubbard's got good submission defense. He went 3 rounds with Davey Ramos and didn't get submitted. So I think that a lot of people are undervaluing that Joe Solecki submission win over Austin Hubbard. And if we look at the wins for Gordon in particular, it's just not that impressive. We're going to see that the combined record of the guys that Gordon has beat in the UFC is... He's got wins over Danny Chavez 1-1, Chris Vishgold 1-3, Dan Moret 0-3, Hakran Diaz 3-5, and Michelle Canonis 0-2. So the only guy with more than 1 UFC win that he's ever beaten is Hakran Diaz. He's never beaten a guy with a winning record. And not only does Joe Solecki have a winning record, he's undefeated in the UFC. And then if we look at Solecki's wins, they're coming over some veteran guys like Jim Miller, Matt Wyman. I mean, Matt Wyman at the end of his career, but even Austin Hubbard, 3-4 is not a bad win. I mean, Austin Hubbard, has went the distance with really tough guys like Davey Hamos, Mark O. Madsen. The most recent fight against Vince Pichel was a really good, really close fight. Austin Hubbard is a tough son of a bitch. So I think that, the wins for Solecki are way better at this point. I think the grappling is just a step above. And I think he's going to be the one to take this thing to the ground. And even if he isn't, he could get a sweep. He could absolutely, make this really difficult on Jared Gordon while he is on top, because Joe Solecki has a very active guard. I've already got a bet on this fight. I have bet 2 units on Joe Solecki. I got him at -131 on Bet Online, and you can already get him at a better price than that right now, -124. The money is coming in on Gordon, you guys. He opened up at -105, so this fight opened up a pick'em. Then the sharps bet it up to immediately to about +145 for Gordon, and that was on September 6th, so that's 3 weeks ago. And then now we see it just going steadily down to 138, and then now 130, 128, and then bam. Just now the money is just flooding in on him. It might even test and go all the way back to a pick'em here. But like I say, I have bet Solecki here at -131. I've got 2 units on him. The aggregate line is still -135. But I think Joe Solecki is going to be too much for Jared Gordon on the ground. And I don't think Gordon's striking is any better than Solecki's, really. And even if it is, it's not by enough to nullify the grappling disadvantage he's going to be at. So thank you guys for listening to that long breakdown, even though you already had to hear me do that breakdown earlier today. So let's move on to the next fight here, as we have got Alexander the Great Hernandez fighting Mike Breeden here. Money Mike Breeden is the older fighter here, 32 years old compared to 28 for Hernandez. We got a 2-inch reach advantage for Alexander. Both these guys fighting out of good camps. Factory X for Alexander Hernandez, Glory MMA with James Krause for Mike Breeden. We got a 3 more pro fights for Alexander Hernandez, about 20 more minutes of cage time, and about 4 more years as a pro. And we got 6 more UFC level fights for Alexander. Alexander came in and was thrown into the deep end of the pool. His debut was against Beneil Dariush, and he actually won that fight, knocked Dariush out in the first round. Alexander Hernandez, his first 2 fights were against Dariush and then Olivier Aubin-Mercier. Then Cerrone beat him. Then he got a win over another really good kickboxer in Francisco Trinaldo. He got knocked out by Drew Dober, a win over Grutzenmacher, and then a loss by unanimous decision to Thiago Moises. So the level of competition that these 2 gentlemen has faced is not even close. Mike Breeden lost his Contender Series fight to Anthony Romero. His legs were absolutely destroyed in that fight, but he did show a ton of toughness. This is a tough country boy, and you're not just going to be able to show him the door and push him through it. He's going to make you kill him to get him out of there. However, even though Breeden mixes up the strikes really well, he goes to the leg, he goes to the body, he throws both hands, he throws with power to the head. I just think Hernandez is going to be a step ahead everywhere, and he's got better wrestling than Breeden. We did see Breeden taken down twice by Anthony Romero in the Contender Series fight, but he was only controlled for 2.78% of the fight. So, even when he was taken down, he did get right back up. But Hernandez is a better opponent. Hernandez is not taking this fight on short notice, while Breeden is. Hernandez's original opponent was Leonardo Santos. So Breeden definitely a step down from here. We know that this is a wide line with Hernandez locking in around -500, if I'm not mistaken, as high as -600 on Bet Online. So let's not waste too much time on this one. This is one of the safer bets of the week. You can use it as a parlay piece. I just don't see Mike Breeden coming out with a win here. I'm going to pick Alexander Hernandez, but I'm going to pick him to win by decision because Mike Breeden is super, super tough. And if you want to see how tough he is, go watch that Contender Series fight against Anthony Romero, and you'll see that this guy has no quit in him. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat here. I've been ignoring you for a minute here, and let's see if we can find anything here. Let's see. Oh, yeah, let's see. Pulling for Mullarkey, dog in the night, says Cody Henderson. Devonte Smith can't get up, says James Coleman. Well, you know what? That's going to be tested for sure. And if Mullarkey does have success with the wrestling, he could be a great dog pick this week. Because if you're right about Devonte Smith not being able to get up, that's going to be really Mullarkey's best chance to win this fight, in my opinion. Because the longer it stays standing, this guy's Smitty's striking is on a different level altogether than Jamie Mullarkey. Mullarkey is a subpar striker for sure. And at least in comparison to Devonte Smith, it's not even close. Anyone betting Lima versus MVP? I am not. Headley one saying, can't wait for next week breakdown. Martina Rodriguez versus Mackenzie Dern. I'm rooting for Dern only so they can bring out the Portuguese translator again so Dern can fake her accent. That's hilarious, man. Yeah, if you can go to YouTube and type Mackenzie Dern accent changes, and you'll find so many accents that she's spoken to. But, she spends time in Brazil. She grew up in America as well. So, she's kind of all over the place, and I could see how, your voice would change with the people that you're hanging out with and how they speak. But it is kind of funny to listen to. But Mackenzie Dern, my God, her ground game is something special to watch. And I'm really looking forward to that because in Marina Rodriguez, you got really one of the best strikers in the 115-pound division. And then in Mackenzie Dern, with a win over Verna Jandiroba, that's a very impressive win for Mackenzie. And if she shores up her striking and can get her takedowns to where she's actually getting the fight to the ground about 40-50% of the time, instead of the pretty bad takedown percentage that she has currently, the sky's going to be the limit for Dern. And we got Darren Cheska saying, hey, Weezy, I think you have to take O'Neal in this one. Yeah, I'm definitely taking her there. XBL on Twitch. What's up, dude? Good to see you, man. Hope the night's been going well. Going to tune in from here on out while I grind some D2. There you go, man. Appreciate that. It's good to see you back, XBL on Twitch. Haven't seen you for a minute. We got Headley one saying, I'm agree with Brady that the line is a little too wide for O'Neal. Yeah, man. I kind of feel the same way, too. Antonina's got a chance, dude. She's so much better of a striker than Casey O'Neal is, but it's just that we've seen such poor takedown defense out of Shevchenko, and we've seen O'Neal just be a dog going for that takedown. If she doesn't get the first, she'll chain them together, get the second or the third, and she pushes a pace and she's relentless. I think it's the perfect style to beat Antonina Shevchenko. But if that doesn't work out for her, there's not going to be a plan B. I think she's going to get her ass kicked on the feet if she can't get it to the ground. And I honestly have never been impressed by Antonina's striking in the UFC. I thought, I think she technically looks really sound. She's not throwing crazy power. She's not Amanda Lemos by any stretch of the imagination, but she's good. She's technically sound. She's got super long legs, so she's got great front kicks and stuff. She can keep the fight at range, can Antonina, and she uses those knees well in the clinch as well. But the thing is that in comparison to Casey O'Neal, it's just not even close. Casey O'Neal's striking is nowhere near the level of Antonina Shevchenko, plain and simple. Darren saying, yeah, Antonina. Yeah. And I mean, I can see what you're saying though, Darren. It makes sense because it's not like Antonina's going out there and just starching hoes, and like punting girls' heads into the third row. She's striking at range, and I see what you're saying. You're not impressed with it, that's cool because there's been nothing really that impressive about it. So, but it's gonna be better than O'Neal's. That was the point I was trying to make. And Darren saying you're cheering for a Correia win, but of course it's unlikely. Yeah, that's gonna be unlikely. But Bethe is one of the OGs. She's tough. I joke about her. She's kind of like the butt of a lot of people's jokes, but she's a great fighter. She's one of the OGs. She's super tough too. She fought Ronda Rousey, but somebody was saying that she made Ronda Rousey look like a good striker, and she made somebody else look like a good grappler. I forget who it was that subbed her, but it was pretty funny. And we got my man Liam Picks Fights in the room. This young man is absolutely killing it with great energy. He's got a great show on his own channel, Liam Picks Fights. Check it out on YouTube. He goes live every Thursday afternoon with a full card breakdown, usually with about 3 cappers alongside of him. One of my favorite shows to watch of the week. Liam Big ups, brother. Thanks for joining me, man. I really appreciate it. Darren saying Gordon is a highly skilled volume brawler. Yes, he is. Skilled volume brawler is exactly what Gordon does best. I like Solecki, very deliberate and patient. Yeah, I agree. Solecki is very slick on the ground, QB. Mark saying he really is. I was impressed by that Hubbard fight. Me too, man. When he got on Hubbard's back, I was thinking to myself, okay, Hubbard's just got to stall now for 2.5 minutes. The next round will start on the feet. He'll be fine. And then I look up and the fight's over. Solecki's damn good. We got DFS by the numbers saying they've seen nobody picking Gordon, but the line looks like it's going to flip. There are definitely some people picking Gordon, man. You're picking Gordon, DFS by the numbers. I had a guy in my chat earlier who was picking Gordon. He was going at me pretty hard. There's people who like Gordon here, and he's more experienced. He's probably the better wrestler, but I just don't think he's the better grappler. And I think the people that are saying his striking is good, I think they're kind of kidding themselves. His striking isn't good. It's average to below average for the division. And Solecki's striking, frankly, is serviceable. But it's Solecki's grappling that really puts him, in my opinion, which is why I bet him. I think he's just got a huge advantage there. And both of these guys spend a ton of time in grappling positions. So I just think that because of that, you're going to see Solecki win this fight. And Andrade saying, big up, Weezy, checking in from the UK. My man, big up yourself. Good to see you in here, Andrade. Always hanging out with us. I appreciate it. It was great. I can't wait to dive into the other video tomorrow at work. Yeah, man, we went balls deep there. And we got DFS staying away for that reason. And Darren saying Hernandez should have the advantage everywhere. Yeah, I agree with you, dude. Breeden's good. Breeden's kind of good everywhere as well. And he's really tough. He's born to be a fighter, and he's got nice hands. I just think he's going to be a step behind Hernandez everywhere. And then you add in the short notice and the fact that the level of competition that these two guys have been fighting is not even close to the same. You got to feel Hernandez gets the job pretty easy. And we got Swish Plays Game saying, what is Weezy's ass shaving of the week this week? After we get done with the main event and I give you my greasy 4-leg parlay for my guy Hammer and Hog, we're going to find out who Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week is, Swoosh. And it is coming up pretty soon here. Hernandez is sketchy as fuck since the Cowboy fight. Yeah, he has been, man. I actually picked him. I thought he was going to be a safe bet against Thiago Moises. I thought he would be the much better striker, and he wasn't. Moises outboxed him, plain and simple. How confident are you feeling in the Solecki pick? Charlie, I'm feeling confident enough to bet 2 units on it. Fairly big bet for me. So I do like it. It was one of those picks that when I saw it on paper originally where Solecki was like minus 130, I thought I should immediately bet that. I love that. But then I had to go watch the tape. And after watching the tape, I saw enough out of Solecki on the ground to be real confident. After watching Gordon really only dominate 145ers on the ground and really kind of dominate guys who actually, frankly, made some bad decisions, going for guillotine chokes, doing some things they shouldn't have done. Yeah, I just think that Solecki's way better than him on the ground. QB saying, I like Solecki. Gordon is tough as nails, though. Gordon is tough as nails. The dude fucking died twice and came back to life. So, yeah, Gordon's tough as nails. And, dude, we got Chris Kalanzis in the room. Uncle Hefner, what's up, man? All right, so we got past Hernandez Breeden here. So let's go to Macy's Chiasson versus Aspen Ladd. You guys, we've only got 5 more fights to go here. We're an hour and 8 minutes in. Let's zip through it and see if we can get this done in an hour and a half. So Aspen Ladd, 4 years younger, but Macy Chiasson much bigger. She's 5 inches taller and going to have a 6-inch reach advantage here. Aspen Ladd's got 2 more pro fights. She's 9-1. Macy is 7-1. Aspen Ladd about 2.5 more years as a pro. Chiasson 1 more fight at the UFC level. For Ladd, half of her career has been in the UFC. For Chiasson, it's been 3/4. And we look at the finish rates. Macy Chiasson with a 58% finish rate. She has finished, I think, 4 out of her 7 pro wins, but 3 out of her 5 UFC wins. And we've got Aspen Ladd, who's got a 78% finish rate. She's finished 7 of her 9 pro wins, and she's been knocked out in her only loss. If we look at the striking numbers here, we're going to see Aspen Ladd landing 5.22 significant strikes a minute and absorbing 4.84, while Chiasson is landing 4.16 and absorbing 2.17. We got a 55% striking accuracy for Ladd, and we got a 49.42% striking accuracy for Chiasson, and striking defense almost identical for both. Aspen Ladd has been knocked down once. It was by Germaine Durandamy after a horrible weight cut, and Germaine Durandamy is probably one of the best female strikers to ever live. So that was Aspen Ladd's only loss as a professional. And she didn't even show up for that fight. She had such a bad weight cut, and it was her worst performance by far. So we've got Aspen Ladd getting 6 of her 8 takedown attempts for 75%. That's almost unheard of, and she's been so efficient with the takedowns that she has gotten. Macy Chiasson has been pretty efficient in terms of getting control time as well. If we look at the control time numbers side by side, almost identical for, and Aspen Ladd getting controlled a little bit more than Chiasson is on the ground. But then again, Aspen Ladd definitely fighting the tougher competition here. If we look at these strength of schedule numbers here, this is the biggest difference between the two, you guys. Besides the size difference for Chiasson, we have a huge strength of schedule advantage here for Ladd, as the ratio of her opponents is 1.58, and the ratio for Macy's opponents less than 1, 0.77. So the average record of a Macy Chiasson opponent, 2.83 wins, 3.67 losses, while for Ladd, it's 3.8 wins and 2.4 losses. And her wins are better than Macy Chiasson. I don't know if Macy Chiasson has ever beaten anybody with a winning record in the UFC. Let's look at Macy's wins. And then there is a piece of MMA math that we have to talk about as well, because it's the Lena Landsberg fight where Macy got bodied by Lena Landsberg. Lena beat her by unanimous decision. Macy landed 26 strikes, was 0 of 4 on takedowns, and Lena landed 21 strikes, was 2 of 4 on takedowns, 3 advances, and got out controlled 347 to 465, but landed the bigger shots and won a unanimous decision. So that was her only loss. But we do see that outside of Pani Kianzad, her first win, she hasn't beaten anybody with a winning record yet. 2-5 Gina Mazzani, 3-6 Sarah Moras, 0-2 Shanna Young, and 5-7 Marion Renault. While and then the loss was to 4-4 Lena Landsberg, while we've got wins over 4-4 Lena Landsberg, 0-3 Tanya Evinger, 5-4 Sijara Eubanks, and 4-3 Yana Kunitskaya, with the only loss coming to Germaine Durandamy, 7-2. So Macy Chiasson's been, Aspen Ladd's been out-controlling her opponents here, as we can see here, 204 to 163, 113 to 62, 416 to 148, and 247 to 232 in her losses, in her wins. She's very efficient with her takedowns. 2 for 3, 3 of 4, and 1 of 1. The only fight where she didn't get a takedown was the Tanya Evinger fight, and she outlanded Tanya 50-9 in a dominant performance. So I'm going to be picking Aspen Ladd here, but the one thing I wanted to talk about with you guys was the fact that I don't think anybody should be betting this fight until we see them on the scales. Horrible weight cut in Aspen Ladd's Durandamy fight. Macy Chiasson is absolutely huge for the division. When she started on the Ultimate Fighter, she was fighting at 145. So her cutting down to 135 is not easy for her. So we got to take a look at both of these ladies on the scale to make sure that they both show up looking good. And if Aspen Ladd doesn't look good, the value is going to be on Chiasson, and vice versa, it'll be on Aspen Ladd, because that line won't be wide enough if Chiasson kills herself to make weight. Because I think Ladd is the better wrestler here. That MMA math with Lena Landsberg is kind of a big deal. Ladd really kind of outdid her, while Macy just, didn't get the job done against her. And Lena Landsberg is a Muay Thai striker, not a grappler. So Aspen Ladd, if she gets on top of Macy Chiasson, I think is going to have her way with her. So I am going to go with Aspen Ladd in this fight. Next fight, Cirkunov Jotko. So we got Misha is going to be 2 years older and 2 inches taller, and they have identical reaches. Jotko is a southpaw. Misha's orthodox. Jotko, a slight experience advantage with 6 more fights and about 220 more minutes in the cage. But that's because Misha Cirkunov's average fight time is 4.24 minutes, and for Jotko, it's 11.33 minutes. Both of these guys have careers around 11 years long, and Cirkunov been fighting about half of his career at the UFC level, and it's the same for Jotko. 140 more minutes in the UFC cage for Jotko, but only 4 more fights. So Jotko, he couldn't finish a cup of soup. He's got a 32% finish rate as a pro, and he's only finished 1 of his 9 UFC wins. While for Misha Cirkunov, we've got an 86% overall finish rate. That would be 13 out of 15 wins inside the distance for Cirkunov, 8 by submission and 5 by knockout. So, yeah, he's a great finisher, and he's finished 100% of his 6 UFC wins. And Misha Cirkunov been finishing all 6 of his pro losses, 4 by knockout, 2 by submission. All 4 of Cirkunov's losses in the UFC have come inside the distance by knockout. But Jotko's only knocked out 1 of his 9 opponents that he's fought in the UFC. So I don't know if Jotko is going to knock out Cirkunov here. Cirkunov, a good grappler here, a very good grappler. If we look at these grappling stats, I think this is the key. Cirkunov, 19 takedowns in 10, or 19 takedown attempts in 10 fights. He's gotten 11 of them, 57.89% accuracy, averaging 4.28 takedowns per 15 minutes and 2.34 submission attempts, 26% control time for, 14% control time against. Jotko, 34% takedown accuracy, averaging about 3 takedown attempts per fight. He gets 1 per fight and averages 1.16 takedowns per 15 minutes. He outcontrols his opponents by the slightest of margins, 22.7% to 21.5%. He's been taken down only 8 out of 62 times, so it's important to note, if you're thinking Cirkunov is going to go and take down Jotko, that Jotko thus far in the UFC has shown 87.1% takedown defense. That's very important. However, we also have to talk about the fact that Cirkunov has fought his entire career up at 205. He is working with the UFC Performance Institute to cut down to 185 pounds for the first time in his career at 34 years of age here against Jotko. He's going to be much bigger than him. He's going to be way stronger than Jotko. And I think that even though Jotko has shown really good takedown defense thus far, that he's never faced anybody with the brute strength of Cirkunov. And if this gets into the clinch, I think Cirkunov is going to use that judo to get Jotko to the ground and then eventually submit him. I'm going to be picking Misha here. The strength of schedule number is just a little bit better for Misha. The wins just a little bit better for Misha. And the losses just a little bit better for Misha again. So better competition, bigger dude, better grappler, and I don't see enough explosiveness out of Jotko to finish Cirkunov. So I don't think if he can make Cirkunov uncomfortable, that eventually Cirkunov's going to get this thing to the ground, find something to squeeze on, and finish this fight. So I'm picking Misha Cirkunov here. He is plus money, by the way, you guys. Jotko is favored. He's between minus 147 and he's as high as minus 175 on some books. You can get Cirkunov at plus 135, plus 128 on Bet Online, plus 130 on DraftKings, plus 132 on FanDuel. So plus money for Cirkunov. If you like him here, you can bet 1 unit to make about 1.3. And he gets all of his fights done inside the distance. So you could probably even, if you like Cirkunov to finish it inside the distance, get a little bit better line here. Cirkunov inside the distance is plus 200. And it just goes to show you, a guy that's plus 135 and it's only plus 200 for him to finish inside the distance shows what a great finisher Cirkunov is. While Jotko's inside the distance line is plus 163, which is actually better That's crazy. Jotko's got a better inside the distance line than Cirkunov, but I guess that's because Jotko's got about a 62% implied probability to win the fight. So, and because Cirkunov has been finished in all of his losses, they're probably figuring that if he does win, it'll be late in the fight, maybe in the third round after Cirkunov gasses, and he'll probably get the finish then. But I think that's interesting. I like Cirkunov here. I have not bet him yet. I'm not running to the window to do it. I think it's curious that he's still plus money here. But he was plus 140 up until yesterday, and it looks like the money is finally starting to come in on him, and this line has moved from plus 140 down to plus 130. We'll see if it keeps moving that way, but the pick is going to be Misha Cirkunov here. Next fight, what a great fight. Alex Oliveira against Niko Price, two of the most exciting fighters in the UFC. Niko Price, one of my favorites, always coming forward, no regard for his own health. And Alex Oliveira, no regard for using protection when he has sex. Alex Oliveira and Niko Price, the two most potent sperm providers in the UFC by far, by a mile. I don't have enough fingers to count the amount of kids that these two gentlemen have sired. Niko Price, big family. Alex Oliveira, even bigger family with several babies' mamas, if I'm not mistaken. But we got Oliveira 2 years older. We got Niko Price 1 inch taller, both the same reach. Alex Oliveira, 14 more professional fights and twice as much cage time as Niko Price in the same amount, in the same length of career. So definitely in those 10 years, Alex Oliveira, not much concern for his own health either, fighting an average of 3.5 times per year. Niko Price fighting a little over twice a year in his own right. But Alex Oliveira, 19 UFC fights. Niko Price, 13 UFC fights. Twice as much cage time for Alex Oliveira here, and a slightly shorter fight time for Niko Price in the UFC. Both of these guys are great finishers. 92% finish rate for Niko Price, 13 of his 14 wins coming inside the distance. While for Alex Oliveira, he's got a 78% finish rate. So 17 of his 22 wins coming inside the distance. And both of these guys getting finished as well. You got to love this fight not to go to decision. Niko Price has been finished in 4 of his 5 losses. Alex Oliveira in 7 of his 10 losses. So I think if we add those up, 15 losses, 7 plus 4 is 11. 11 of 15 coming inside the distance. That is almost 80%. So you got to love anything above, minus 250 or better is probably a good fight doesn't go to decision bet here. Both of these guys are landing knockdowns on about 1% of the significant strikes that they land. Oliveira just more accurate. Niko Price landing more knockdowns per 15 minutes. Both these guys striking defense around 48%. They're both getting knocked down on about 0.7% of the significant strikes that they absorb. And we see that for Oliveira, it's 0.24 knockdowns allowed per 15 minutes. For Price, it's 0.6. Oliveira, the more active wrestler, going for about 4 takedowns a fight. He gets 30 out of 81 for 37% accuracy, 2.37 takedowns for 15 minutes. So he's the better wrestler. As Niko Price only getting his takedowns at below a 21% percentage here. So 14% control time for Price, 15 against, while Alex Oliveira's fights are taking place in control time positions, about 35% for and 25% against. So about 60% of Oliveira's fights taking place in control time positions. So I'm not sure which one of these guys is going to want to initiate the grappling more. I have a feeling it'll probably take place a little bit more in the center of the cage at striking range, because while Oliveira has been the more willing wrestler, he's still, despite the fact he's getting twice as many takedowns as his opponents, he's not out controlling his opponents at a 2-to-1 ratio. And Niko Price really isn't getting taken down that much either. Only been taken down 8 times in 13 fights, showing about 2/3 takedown defense. So I think this fight's going to take place on the feet. And if we look at the strength of schedule, Niko Price better everywhere, better wins, better losses, better on the overall ratio. He's fighting the better competition. He's younger. He's taller. I'm picking Niko Price to win this fight. We just haven't seen much out of Alex Oliveira lately, although I think his last two opponents would probably beat Niko Price in Randy Brown and Shavkat Rakhmonov. But the win over Peter Sabata is a very one-dimensional fighter who really relies on his grappling, and he's got very poor takedown offense. So Oliveira just kind of easily pieced up Sabata. The win over Griffin was controversial at best. Lost to Dalby. I just don't know if Alex Oliveira really cares whether he wins or loses or not anymore. And I think that as Oliveira is likely to slow down the longer the fight goes, I think that Niko Price is more likely to increase that output and really put the conditioning, the pace, the pressure on Alex Oliveira. I'm picking Niko Price to win this fight. I think he's going to drown Oliveira in volume and battery by the third round and get him out of there inside the distance. Let's move on to what will probably be the most controversial fight of the week. Kevin Holland versus Kyle Daukaus. Who are you guys on, man? Who do you guys like in this one? Because it seems like everybody's got a pretty strong opinion. You're either like Holland and you think Holland's going to knock out Daukaus, or you think that Holland's get-up game and wrestling is so piss poor that Kyle Daukaus is going to take him down, control him easily for 3 rounds, and get his hand raised. It's not easy talking for an hour and a half straight. I love talking, but I never thought I'd get sick of it, but it's hard to do it for this long straight. My voice is just giving out, but we've only got 2 more fights to go through here. Both these guys, same age, same height. Holland has got a ridiculous reach advantage of 5 inches. He's going to be the far better striker here. He's got twice as many pro fights. He's got 3 times as many UFC fights. So, he's just definitely got the experience advantage here. He's got the tail of the tape advantage here with that 5-inch reach advantage. And he is also the slightly better finisher at 81% to Kyle Daukaus's 80%. Kevin Holland has been finished by submission 2 out of his 7 losses. Kyle Daukaus has never been finished. Fight goes to decision might be a great bet for these guys because both of these guys are so ridiculously tough. I think the only way that this fight ends is if, I could see Kevin Holland potentially knocking out Daukaus, but I think Daukaus getting a Darce choke is probably the only way he gets Holland out of there, because you'd have to hit Holland in the head with a shovel to get him out. He's got a ridiculously strong chin. If we look at the striking numbers for these guys, they're very identical, except for the fact that Kyle Daukaus's stand-up striking defense is terrible. 40% striking defense for Kyle Daukaus. And Kevin Holland lands with a lot of power, landing a knockdown on 0.5% of the significant strikes that he's landed. So that's 3 UFC knockdowns for Holland and 610 strikes landed. Holland lands 3.74 a minute and only absorbs 2.33. And Daukaus outlands his opponents 3.23 to 2.72. But that striking defense, Kyle Daukaus has been knocked down once in 163 significant strikes. So Kevin Holland could potentially find that chin, and he's got the striking to do it. But Kevin Holland's takedown defense is piss poor, and everybody knows it. As a result of that, he has had 69 takedowns attempted against him in only 13 fights. His opponents have gotten 36 of them. That means that Kevin Holland has sub 50% takedown defense. He's getting controlled 28% of the time. But what's interesting is that even though Kevin Holland has 10 takedowns and his opponents have 36, the control time for and against is almost identical. So at least Holland is getting up occasionally, and at least Holland, when he gets takedowns, appears to be controlling his opponents for a longer time than Kevin Holland's opponents control him. So he's showing some efficiency there, which is a good thing. But Kyle Daukaus has got really good takedown defense in his own right at 85.71%. But Daukaus, unfortunately, not the best wrestler. We've got sub 30% takedown accuracy for Daukaus. He's 7 of 24 on his takedown attempts. He's getting 1.75 per 15 minutes and averaging 34.36% control time. So Kyle Daukaus, in order to stay safe, in order to have a chance to win this fight, he's going to have to keep it in control time positions. Kevin Holland is going to have to keep this fight at range. I don't know how good Kevin Holland is going to be at keeping this fight at range. And another thing that we do have to talk about, you guys, is the fact that Kevin Holland's fight IQ, it's not good. It's just not good. This guy's fight IQ sucks, frankly. If you have money on him, you're pissed off with some of the decisions that he's making. He's putting himself into bad positions. He's putting himself in the clinch with some of these guys that are trying to take him down. And then when he does get taken down, sometimes he's playing off his back with very little effectiveness and just staying there, losing minutes and losing rounds. And Kyle Daukaus, unfortunately for Kevin Holland, Kyle Daukaus is not comfortable with his striking. I think Kyle Daukaus' striking is better than Kyle Daukaus thinks it is. But every time Kyle gets somebody hurt, he goes right back to the grappling. The grappling is where Kyle is most comfortable. He fights to his win condition. If you look at how he wins fights, Kyle Daukaus has 10 professional wins, 8 are by submission and 2 are by decision. He's never knocked anybody out. I don't think we're going to see him knock anybody out in the near future. This guy is going to win with his grappling, with his control time, with some wrestling, and with potentially choking you out once he gets you down. So I can't bet on Kevin Holland, even though I think he wins this fight, because I can't count on him in a 3-round fight to make enough smart decisions to keep this fight standing and to fight to his win condition here. And if he does anything dumb against Daukaus's front chokes are legit. He just might get caught up in one of them. But if he does show some newfound footwork, some ability to be able to avoid the grappling exchanges, to continue to land distant strikes, which he does very well because he's already very long. If we see him take that next step, I think he's going to look minus 300 here against Daukaus because it isn't even close on the feet. But I have to wait because Kevin Holland, I can't count on him to make good decisions in the cage because I've just seen him make too many bad ones. So I'm picking Kevin Holland to win this fight because I don't think Daukaus's wrestling is good enough to keep the fight in control time positions long enough for him to win enough minutes and bank 2 rounds. So I think that while this fight is standing, Holland will be landing the far better, more meaningful strikes. And as a result, I think he wins a greasy decision. But I do think that this fight goes to decision. And I just want to see what the line on that is. Fight goes to decision is about minus 140, anywhere from minus 125 to minus 140. And both of these guys are so tough. I'd like to see it preferably around plus 100, a 50-50 shot, because I think both of these guys are so tough and so talented that neither one of them is going to get finished. But I think that's a little too rich for my blood to lay 1.4 to win 1. So I think I'll leave that alone. But we did it, guys. We got to the main event here. Johnny Walker versus Thiago Santos. So best parlay piece on the card and what will be the last leg in my greasy 4-leg parlay is going to be the fight doesn't go to decision here for Santos Walker, which is around minus 400 to minus 600, depending on where you're betting. But the beautiful thing is when your last leg in your parlay is also the widest odds, if you've hit the first 3 legs, it allows you to hedge out and make a decent amount of money. So I'm going to make the fattest and widest line the last leg in the parlay, and that's going to be the fight doesn't go to decision for this fight, and here's why. We've got guys that have ridiculous amount of power, and as Monk mentioned earlier in the chat, Johnny Walker has the worst chindex in the UFC, and he also has the worst striking defense in the UFC. But both of these guys land with tremendous power. Both of these guys have been knocked out a number of times and knocked down a number of times. So I just think, this is going to be a violent spot. And neither one of these guys is a willing, active wrestler in order for me to believe that enough of this fight is going to take place in control time positions for it to go the full 5 rounds and go to decision here. A 5-round fight for both of these guys, I just don't see it happening. I know Santos went 5 rounds against John Jones, but John Jones is a point fighter. Johnny Walker tries to finish you right away, and if he doesn't, he's pretty easy to finish after he runs out of gas. So one more sip of water before we finish this off, you guys. All right. Santos, 37 years old. Red flag. 29 for Walker. We got 4 inches of height and a 6-inch reach advantage for Walker. So a big tail of the tape advantage here. The experience advantage is going to go to Santos, having fought more than 2/3 of his career at the UFC level, having 7 more pro fights than Walker, 3 more years in the game, and over 2.5 times as many minutes in the cage. So definitely an experience advantage for Santos. When we look at finish rates, Walker is actually a better finisher than Santos. Santos has finished 76% of his 21 wins, so that's 16 of his 21 wins coming inside the distance, while for Walker, it's 94% of his 18 wins, 17 of Johnny Walker's 18 wins coming inside the distance. So 17 plus 16 is 33 out of these guys. 39 fights have finished inside the distance. And then if we look at the losses, Thiago Santos has been finished inside the distance in 6 of his 9 pro losses. And for Johnny Walker, it's 4 of his 5 pro losses. So 10 of 14. So it's like almost an 80%, about 75% in their losses. So yeah, this is a great violent spot. It's a great parlay piece for the fight doesn't go to decision. We see these knockdowns per total significant strikes landed and the knockdowns per 15 minutes. 1.8% these guys are landing knockdowns on of their total significant strikes landed. They're averaging more than 1 knockdown per 15 minutes. And we see Thiago Santos, 48% striking accuracy, and Johnny Walker, a ridiculous Alistair Overeem-like 72.5% striking accuracy. So he's just deadly. And then not only that, as deadly accurate as Johnny Walker is, he is just as equally inept defensively, showing a 31.25% striking defense. 132 of 192 significant strikes that have been thrown against him have landed. But he's still managing to, outland his opponents 4.41 to 3.51, despite that piss poor striking defense. He's getting knocked down on about 2.25% of the significant strikes that are landing against him. And he's getting knocked down 1.2 times for 15 minutes, while for Santos, it's much less than that at about 0.75% and 0.28 knockdowns per 15 minutes. And neither one of these guys are going to grapple much. Walker, only 1 takedown attempt in 7 fights. Thiago Santos, 21 takedown attempts in 21 fights. So both of these guys averaging either 1 or way less than 1 takedown attempts per fight. And both of these guys, 10% control time for Walker, 15.7% control time for Santos. Neither one of these guys are control time monsters. They're both, as a matter of fact, being out-controlled by their opponents because their opponents are usually so scared of their striking and their power that they'll do anything to get into the grappling exchanges where they're less likely to be separated from their consciousness against a fighter like Walker or Santos, neither one of them being particularly dangerous on the ground. But Santos will be the more dangerous, more accomplished grappler here. If we look at the strength of schedule numbers, Thiago Santos, a 1.9 ratio and a 1.41 for Walker, and more experienced competition as well for Santos. So he's got the strength of schedule advantage. The wins are better for Santos as well, and the losses are also better for Santos. Way better strength of schedule, way more experience for Santos. And I think Santos is going to be the better grappler, but he's not likely to use it. But Johnny Walker, 8 years younger, he's got a 6-inch reach advantage, 4-inch height advantage, and he's got 72.5% striking accuracy, but 31.25% striking defense. I think I'm going to have to pick Thiago Santos here, just because Johnny Walker is going to be dangerous for a little bit, but to think that Santos couldn't check his chin, and to also think that Santos isn't the one with more experience in longer fights, I think that the longer this fight goes, the better a chance that Santos has. as Walker is probably going to be the more likely one to tire out and to inefficiently use his energy and manage his gas tank. So I'm picking Thiago Santos to win this fight inside the distance. I've been going back and forth on this one, but I think I'm going to stick with the more experienced, more consistent guy here, and just hope that he's got one or two more big wins left in him. But like I said, you guys, I don't think I'm going to be betting this fight, except for, of course, that fight doesn't go to decision in a greasy leg, 4-leg parlay. So we did it, you guys. We made it through all 13 fights. So let's look at these. Let's look at these lines here. Let's see what we can find. So the first leg of this parlay is going to be the fight doesn't go to decision for Alejandro Perez, Johnny Eduardo. I got that at plus 100. You're not going to get it at that good of a price, but I think this fight definitely finishes inside the distance. So that's going to be a close line there that I think is a good one. The next one that I'm going to give you guys is a very safe one. Karol Rosa beating Bethe Correia. The third line I'm going to give you guys is not that close, or I mean, it is close. I'm going to give you the Niko Price money line over Alex Oliveira. I just don't think Oliveira has enough left in the tank here. I don't think he's particularly better than Niko Price anywhere. And I think the longer this fight goes on, you're going to see Niko really start to put it on Oliveira. And I think he gets him out of there in the third round. And then the last leg of that parlay is going to be the fight doesn't go to decision for Thiago Santos versus Johnny Walker. That is your greasy 4-legger for the week. We got 2 violence bets on there, and we got 2 money line bets on there. The money line bets, in order to make it a little bit closer, are Niko Price and Bethe, or I mean, not Bethe, for the love of God, not Bethe Correia. It will be Karol Rosa, and then the fight doesn't go for the main event, and the fight doesn't go for Eduardo Perez. That's our greasy 4-legger. So you know what that means. We got one more order of business to take care of tonight on Just the Tip. It is, of course, Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. Which one of these guys is going to get the job done? Which one of these fights is going to be the most one-sided ass shaving of the week? I have to send thanks out to the city of Philadelphia and to my man Chris Daukaus for absolutely coming through for their Uncle Weezy. For last week's Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week, Chris Daukaus not only was so honored to be chosen for this honor that he knocked out Shamil Abdurakhimov not once, but twice. Chris Daukaus, big up yourself. Thank you for coming through for your Uncle Weezy last week. And the guy that is going to come through this week for his Uncle Weezy, the 32-year-old comeback king, Alejandro Turbo Perez, is going to be putting 43-year-old Johnny Eduardo, giving him his walking papers from the UFC, saying, thanks for 41 great fights, Johnny, but it's time to show you the door. Alejandro Perez inside the distance. If Johnny Eduardo doesn't get this fight done in the first 3 minutes, he's going to say, bye-bye, give me my show money, show me the door. That's it, you guys. We did it. An hour and 42 minutes. I probably could have got it done a little bit quicker than that, but we did it in under 2 hours, 13 fights, UFC Vegas 38. Let's go. Let's cash some tickets, you guys. I appreciate all of you guys for hanging out with me for this late on a Tuesday night. I'm going on vacation first thing in the morning. You're not going to see me until Z's Fair Play podcast on Friday, and then Best Bet on DFS by the Numbers channel 1 hour before the fights on Saturday, where we're going to go over our best bet for every fight on the card. The links to all the shows that I've already done this week are in the description. The link to the statistics that you've seen in this video are in the description. And I'd like to thank each and every one of you for hanging out with your Uncle Weezy tonight on Just the Tip. God bless each and every one of you. You guys, I am out of here. Thank you guys. And the next time you see me, I will be in Florida, chilling by a pool, having a much needed vacation. Thank you guys. Have a great